Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Brews with Brian, a craft beer review podcast. Craft beer is beer that is made in smaller breweries, not these big corporate machine breweries that we're all aware of. Craft beer takes time and patience, and the people that brew this stuff care about the product they are delivering to us, the consumer, and I could not be more thankful. On this week's episode, I'm reviewing Brevis and Bretthead from Monday Night Brewing, Sipsey River Red from Goat Island Brewing, and Emergency Drinking Beer from Wild Haven Beer. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify, so don't forget to like and share. If you got any friends that love craft beer, tell them about the show. Maybe they'll like my reviews. But let's kick this show off. And first up on this week's show, we have Brevis and Bretthead from Monday Night Brewing out of Atlanta, Georgia. Brevis and Bretthead have an ABV of 8% and a one-off availability. The description from the website says, Brevis and Bretthead is a double dry-hopped sour IPA fermented with Brettanomyces and Lactobacillus brevis. Get it? These different strains play off each other with tart, funky notes to complement the bitterness of the Mosaic, Simcoe, Citra, Idaho 7, and Eldorado hops. This beer pours straw-colored and opaque with a half finger of white head, with very small amounts of lacing, aromas of passion fruit, sour smells, funk, grapefruit. Honestly, this thing is amazing. It's just very vibrant. Tasting this thing, luckily it follows the nose, passion fruit, sour, funk, orange rind, guava, a little yeast, some hops, tart in the best ways. And did I mention passion fruit? Because this thing is heavy on the passion fruit. And the feel for this beer is, you better pucker up, because this thing is tart, acidic, and very citrus. It's a little dry, very refreshing, and it hides the alcohol well. In short, this beer is fantastic. If someone had told me that passion fruit flavors had been added, I would have believed them. I bought this expecting something like a yeasty, floral Belgian IPA, but instead this is a delicious, fruit-forward sour beer with just the right balance of hops that shouldn't turn people off who normally despise IPAs. I'd love to see this beer again, or just catch an old bottle hanging around at the shop. Trust me, you don't want to miss this, and the odds are you probably have by now. But this beer was fantastic Monday night. Hit it out of the park again, like they always do. But overall, I'm going to give Brevis and Bretthead from Monday Night Brewing 4 stars. And next up on this week's show, we have Sipsey River Red from Goat Island Brewing out of Cullman, Alabama. Sipsey River Red has an ABV of 5.5% and a year-round availability. The description from the website says, this beer won a gold medal in the 2016 Alabama Craft Beer Championship. It's an amber to red ale balanced perfectly with malt and European hops, smooth, flavorful, and colorful. The first thing you'll notice about this beer is the fragrance. It will remind you of walking through the nearby Sipsey River Wilderness area in the spring. This beer pours a beautiful reddish-brown color with sunset golden highlights when held up to the light. The foamy off-white head lingers for a while, then subsides, leaving some intricate lacing. A very surprising and pleasant aroma for a red ale. This one has the aromatics of domestic hops, citrus and pine. The hop profile follows to the flavor with a surprising hop bite right away. perhaps slightly too bitter. Please allow this ale to warm up a little in the glass to appreciate the balance of hops and malt, as the initial taste was slightly one-dimensional in flavor. The flavor profile includes hints of plum, molasses, and a faint roasty flavor. I believe this ale would improve with a stronger malt profile to complement the hops. It's somewhat crisp and refreshing. No worries about cloying flavors at all here. It's a medium-bodied beer with a slick mouthfeel and lingering bitterness on the tongue. I think it's always good to try a beer from a relatively new brewery from Alabama, because it's the state I live in. This ale would be excellent if the hops were toned down just a little bit. But Goat Island is a brewery that I'm not really familiar with, even though it is in my home state. But this beer was fantastic. I think everybody should give it a try if you can find it. You might have to go to Coleman to find it, but seek it out if you can. But overall, I'm going to give Sipsey River Red from Goat Island Brewery 4 stars. And the last beer on this week's episode is Emergency Drinking Beer from Wild Haven Beer out of Decatur, Georgia. Emergency Drinking Beer has an ABV of 4.4% and a springtime availability. The description from the website says, a one-of-a-kind session beer reminiscent of a crisp Pilsner married with a traditional Goza. Brightness and complexity come from the additions of citrus zest, Portuguese sea salt, and lemongrass. This beer pours pale gold and faintly hazed. The Pilsner's rustic and raw character glimmers underneath a frothy pillow of foam. Citrus and fresh-cut grass decorate the nose, along with fresh baking bread and supple grain scents. Its taste is gentle with a bready Pilsner malt sweetness, taking a light, doughy, and confectioner's sweetness across the initial palate. As the spices rise through the center, its citrus and herbal influence give the middle palate a mild, bright taste of orange peel and a lemongrass flavor to overtake the retracting malt sweetness. It's very crisp, clean, and zesty. The beer finishes moderately bitter with a peppery balance and a grassy afterglow. The mouthfeel is medium to light and sort of creamy. The beer's high refreshment exits the palate with light eucalyptus and mint, with a cooling sensation from the evaporating alcohol. Its lively carbonation tightens the flavors as the session closes and keeps the beer crisp and dry. This beer's pretty good. I would consider this a lawnmower drinking beer, while it's something you could drink while you're cutting your grass. Very low ABV, so you could drink a few. It's pretty good. So give it a shot if you can find it. But overall, I'm going to give Emergency Drinking Beer from Wild Haven Beer out of Decatur, Georgia, 3 stars. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Brews with Brian. I want to thank everybody for listening. The show continues to grow each and every week, and it means the world to me that people listen to this thing. This is just a little pet project of mine. On this week's show, I reviewed Brevis and Bretthead from Monday Night Brewing, Sipsey River Red from Goat Island Brewing, and Emergency Drinking Beer from Wild Haven Beer. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. So don't forget to like and subscribe and share the show with all your friends that would love craft beer. I want to give a special shout out to Southern Package of Sheffield, Alabama, which is my hometown craft beer shop. If you live in Northwest Alabama, you got to check them out. They're good people. They'll treat you right. And I cannot say enough nice things about them. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Brews with Brian, and we'll see you next time.